My personal background is that I grew up in a place called Eldorado Park, which is, anybody know Aldo's? Aldo's. And, I grew up playing in the streets, riding my bicycle, playing with my tops and my friends. And, life is good. It's okay. Do you know what I'm saying? There are times there's not enough food or whatever it is, but life was good as a young man. And at the age of 8 years old, I lost my father to a gangster who had murdered him. They were sitting around and a young girl in our community was being harassed. And my father was the first one to get up and go and try to do something about this. In the whole process, he got murdered, and it just happened like that. Fortunately, I wasn't around, my mom wasn't around, and my brother wasn't there. And this kind of thing left me as a young man without a father. And, I think many of us in here probably have grown up without fathers. Many of our young people, and I think of the lineup of today, I'm the young buck in the house over here. So I want to speak as a young man. Although I am a father of a 5-year-old and a married man, I'm speaking as a young man to what I believe are older men here. And I believe that you have in your hand the power to shape this generation. It's a fatherless generation. It's a generation that does not understand certain things. Like Marx, you had your dad telling you, boy, when you come home, you better clean this place up. He understood certain rules and boundaries. As a young man, certain things get set in you by having a father around you. And a lot of this generation doesn't have that. Even some of us who are older don't have that, and there's certain things that you miss. It's like a computer that has software. You have certain apps, like a banking app. You can't bank if you don't have the app. Do you know what I'm saying? There's certain things in a young man's life that he cannot access in his life unless he has been fathered, unless he has been taken and said, take this software, my son. When you wake up in the morning, wake up at 5 o'clock, clean your shoes, because it sets something on the inside of you that gives you discipline, that will help you in the workplace, that will see you achieve and accomplish your dream. No matter how much a young man wants to accomplish his dream, if he does not have the correct internal hardware, the correct internal software on his computer, he's not going to make it. And you know what? All it takes is a few good men. I'll share a bit of my story with you, and I'll have you know that a young man, from the time that he's a boy, goes through the journey of manhood. And many of us have gone through that, and I'm going to identify some of those areas. A young man starts off as a boy. There's 6 stages, according to an author called John Aldridge. He's written some amazing books on manhood, especially. But as a young man, you start off as a boy, And as a young boy, there are certain things a dad needs to instill. And some of us, even as men, you'll find you're stuck as a boy, or you're stuck in certain stages of manhood because you never had somebody identify or take you through that stage, or help you see, you can move from here to there. And as a young boy, there's certain things you need. As a young boy, you need to know you are the apple of your father's eye. As a young man, I knew that. When my father would take me to school, he put me on his shoulders. He was tall. He had to. He was probably your height, bro. He had to duck to walk into a room. He was that tall. So when I was on his shoulders, man, I remember these things. I remember he would take me in his car, put my hands on the steering wheel and let me drive. I remember my mom telling me that every day I would ask him for a toy. And you know what? He would give me, he'd like, man, you're in my pockets. But you know what? I was not in his pocket, I was in his heart. As a young man, I knew that I was the apple of his eye. And as a young boy, sometimes as dads or, society treats you harshly and tells you, you're useless, man. What are you doing here? You shouldn't be seen. As a young man, if he does not understand that he is the apple of his daddy's eye, or a man's eye, because young men and men get their identity from the company of men. You find your identity in the company of men. Mana, do you know what I'm saying? When you accept it, how can you wound a man the most? Is when you tell him you're not a man. You tell him you don't have what it takes. If a man doesn't have that question answered on the inside of him, and many of us have been wounded in that area, maybe your father has done that. Said, you are not a man. You can't do this. If you can't drink 18 beers, you're not a man. And so a young man will always try to prove himself. Do you know what I'm saying? Do I match up to the others? If that question is not answered by a father figure or a father figure, it could be an older brother, it could be somebody. And I'm asking you to identify as men today, maybe your own space, but like Prof was saying, a little bit of introspection. Where can you get in touch with so many young men on the university campus? How can you speak to a certain stage in their lives and help them? You're with them maybe for a full year, you see them walking up and down the corridors. You can pull them aside just for a moment and say, hey man, affirm them, help them understand, hey, you're good, you belong, well done. If he doesn't understand that, he will always try to find it somewhere. A boy then goes from being a little boy to being a cowboy. And this is where a young man tries to go through, he wants to shoot cops and robbers, do you know what I'm saying? He wants to experience certain things. He wants to climb mountains. He wants to jump from, my son will jump from the top of my car. And he'll say Dad, catch me, It's like that little bit of adventure. We all need that bit of adventure, and that is a space where you need to explore. Some of us have never explored. You've never gone mountain hiking. You've never traveled outside of Johannesburg. You've never gone somewhere. If you don't explore, your wings and your capacity as a man is stifled. So if you haven't done that as a man, you need to do that. If you see a young man who is in that kind of space, allow him that, and it's important in that stage of manhood to be able to say to a young man, you know what? It's safe to fall. Because this is the stage of exploration. He goes, he joins a soccer team, he's lost, picked or whatever, and you got to let him know, you know what, that's not failure. This is just learning. You're identifying the place where you are strong at. And then he needs coaching along those lines. So it's never success or failure, it's always about learning. The next stage a young man goes through is the warrior stage. And this is where you find a cause. A young man, even a young woman, finds a cause to live for. I mean, you see it at the university, it's evident. There's a cause for the young people, for their future, for their education. Many of us at this age and stage take up a cause. And if it's not the right cause, it doesn't matter. Because something burns on the inside of a young man at that stage to say, you know what, I need to do something. I will fight for something. And if you have had a relationship with him, you can garner that and direct it in the right direction. And they will begin to fight on the right side. The challenge is young men fighting on the wrong side, in the wrong direction. So you want to garner that, and as a good man, a few good men in this room. Are there any few good men in this room? Come on, if the mother, this is a mother thing. It's not a ladies thing. No disrespect. So the mother, normally we say woo-ha. Can we have that? 1, 2, 3. Woo-ha. Ah, nice. So if you agree or you want to express yourself, you say woo-ha. A young man needs a mentor in his life. He needs a few good men, and in this room we're looking for that. My personal relationship with my dad was great. As a young man, I knew that I was loved. As a cowboy, I could explore certain things. I had an older brother that I would fight with, tumble with, run with, do certain things with, and explore certain things. But I always felt that I played it safe because I never had somebody there to allow me. And if I did fall, to say, that's okay, man. It's fine. You can get up. It's not too difficult. Just try this and do that. If a young man doesn't receive coaching at that time, he becomes insecure and feels, man, Do I fit in? Where do I fit in? But you need to give them the freedom to be. Then I went through high school, and there were certain men who were not good men. My mom married a guy who beat her. My first day going to school, boarding school, the night before, I found her in her own pool of blood. This guy would beat her. Inside of me grew hatred for this man. And I said, one day, I'm going to put him in a corner and I'm going to do exactly what he did to my mother. And needless to say, things changed because he nearly killed her, and we ended up running away in one day and moved to where he couldn't find us. And at this point, I was in a youth group, and there was a young youth pastor who I looked at, and this guy, he told a story about how he was at the army and how he got up in the army, and he just started talking to the guys and telling them who he was and what he stood for. And it was like, I found somebody that had a cause to fight for. And I started to fight. He used to skateboard and do all kinds of cool things, things that I enjoyed at that time. And I latched onto that. And you know what? Through him, I found a cause to fight for. I found something that I believed in strongly, that I would stand for. I had my father that I had in my memory. Men, I don't know if it was Marx who said, when you leave this earth, you're going to leave your family behind. What memory are you going to leave? Even Mark this morning, what memory are you leaving of yourself? What are they going to remember you as? What did you fight for? What did you stand for? What did you believe in? Were there people that you cared for? As a young man, I lost my father at 8. I'm 38 today. 30 years, the difference. And I still remember, so importantly, how he stood for people. And today, I do a lot of things with youngsters and communities and all kinds of things. Not because of that, but because he planted a seed in my heart that 30 years later has grown. And there's a whole lot of other things that I don't even have time to really speak about it. But a young man goes from boy to cowboy to a warrior. But he can't stay a warrior all his life because he needs to become a lover. And that's where a young man and us as men grow, and you begin to appreciate things like poetry, a beautiful sunset. You begin to see that there are things deeper in life than just hanging out with the boys on a Friday night and having a good time. You know what I mean? You understand? And here you look for beauty because it goes deeper than where you are right now. And he finds love, and he finds honor, and he finds certain values that are beyond just the fight. And he finds, there's beauty in certain things, and he will preserve certain things. He will keep those things. And you understand life on a different level. And when a young man becomes a fighter and a warrior, you never really lose the warrior phase, but you must become a lover. Otherwise, you become destructive. The next phase that a man goes through is the king phase. And this is where you as a man are now conquering your space, the top of your mountain. You are providing, you are protecting. There's perhaps a family. You have greater responsibility within an organization. You are at a certain level. You are the king on top of that mountain. But if you settle on top of that mountain, like I think certain men or certain like Marx was saying, you can't settle on top of your mountain because pride sets in. You lose your game and you don't even know it, but everybody else around you can see it. You know what I'm saying? And as a king, you can't stop there. You have to progress to become the sage. And the sage is the one who says, you know what, I don't retire. When I hit 55, when I hit 65, I become the mentor. I become the coach. I become the one that speaks into other people's lives. And those are the stages that a young man and a man goes through. And I'm telling you now, as a young man, I didn't have a father, but I had definite role models in my life that have been there. One of my most recent was a businessman, an entrepreneur, that helped me see, you know what, Carl, you can't keep dancing on stage all the time. That's fine if you're going to earn a salary for you. You need to get a business, because if you want to buy a home and leave something for your family and your children and those kind of things, you're going to have to make more money than what you're making right now, you know. And I've been coached to understand things like vision through a sage, purpose, building something that takes longer to build, but that will leave a longer legacy for your life. And so I've had some of those things, you know, along my life, and I believe that I've been blessed in that way. But I think as men, you have the opportunity to be one of those few good men that has the chance to take somebody's hand wherever you are, whether it's to help them understand, you know what, as a young boy, you might not have been affirmed, but I'm affirming you. Man, you do well. That's great. Don't worry, that mistake over there is not detrimental for the rest of your life. The worst you can say to a child or a young man is, you're stupid, you can't make it done. Those kind of things just enrage men, and the worry comes out and just goes in the wrong direction. If you do find a warrior, guide him in the right direction, give him wisdom. I believe that every single one of us as men, you have something. And that's the question I want to ask you. What do you have? What experience have you gained? You have got something. Whether you know how to make a fire, you can teach a young man that. He'll find it valuable one day. If you know how to take a screwdriver and see that thing that's broken up there and fix it and coach a young man, you can do that. If you know how to lay out business principles or a vision or a budget for a young man, you might be strong enough. Help them, help us become the men that maybe our fathers could never be, or even we could never be without that guidance. I think somebody said, become the mentor that you never had, you know. And I know it might sound strange because you don't have some of that in you, but you do have something that you can give. And I think even as a nation, South Africa, we've got to become open. We've got to become open to all kinds of people, all kinds of things, and embrace the challenges, walk with young people, and build them up to become more than what we could be in our age. And how's our time? 2 minutes. Good, that's fine. I know I didn't have much time. But I want to touch on something that's called the law of the farm. And Stephen Covey speaks about this. You know, Mark Pilgrim spoke about cancer and detecting it late. For a lot of us, we find ourselves in issues or challenges. Even me personally as a young man, I look back and I think, wow, Carlo, almost so many years ago, you started out earning a certain amount of money. If you had just bought a small property by now, you could probably had a certain amount. Do you know what I mean? And it's 18 years later, and I'm like, oh man, I should have done that then, you know. And so many times, as you end up with, let's call it a heart attack, or a divorced relationship, or a financial issue that you just can't fix because 20 years ago, you didn't start. When you have the heart attack, and when you have the issue, it's almost too late. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? No, it didn't start now. It started 20 years ago. And it happened slowly, steadily, and surely. Slowly because every day you neglected to maybe exercise. Steadily because although there were warning flashes, you decided to ignore it. And surely, as if you go onto the N1 and you head south, you are on your way to Cape Town. You're not going to Durban. You will surely end up in Bloemfontein or Durban if you head on the N1 south. So I guess it's Slowly, steadily, surely. What road are we on? Are you on the road to financial freedom? Are you saving? Is it a priority in your life? Is your health, are you building it slowly, steadily, surely? Are you on that path where you're exercising, eating well, like Mark said, taking a jog? In a relationship, are you slowly, steadily, surely building that relationship with your child, your wife, your partner, whoever it is? Because slowly, steadily, surely, you are going to end up somewhere. And where you end up, you want to make sure that you practice what Stephen Covey calls the law of the farm. You can call it the law of sowing and reaping. What you sow, you will surely reap at the end of the day. And when it comes to young men and young people, if we do not sow into their lives right now, you will reap chaos in 20 years' time, because they look back and say, you never did anything for me. You never did anything for us. But I don't believe that that's the group of men that we have here. I think as a university, as men who have the opportunity to influence others, I believe that it's a great space to be in. There's a chance for us as young people coming through. And with events like this, people like yourselves availing the opportunities, I think, like the Prof was speaking earlier, 28% coming from poorer communities now. That's making a difference, you know. So I'm not speaking to, I feel like they say you're preaching to the converted. You guys are making the difference, you know. And just out of that, I want to say thank you for this time and this opportunity. I appreciate it. Let's be the few good men that we need to be. And I know it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect or that you got it right. You need to share your wounds. You need to say, you know what? And I got to be honest, I struggle in certain things because I don't have somebody that said, you know what? I failed here in my marriage. You know, don't treat your wife like that. Treat her like this. It doesn't work. You can tell them about your failures and what never worked. It will help. So you don't have to, we're not looking for perfect men, but we are looking for good men who will say, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to try to invest. I'm going to practice the law of the farm in a young man's life over a certain period of time, and slowly, steadily, surely, you'll end up on the right path. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
The University of Johannesburg. Rethink, reinvent.